Peace, family, Vie Darling, the cosmic queen, into your intergalactic interpreter. And I have been channeling a message for the past few days, and it is really on my heart to do this challenge message in this reading, and it's about Justin Bieber, and I just want to go ahead and state that this is for entertainment and or educational purposes only. All of this is alleged. I don't know this person. I've never ever met this person in the 3D, or his girlfriend, or his wife rather, or the people that he works with. I've never met these people. I've never communicated with them in the 3D. I am just doing this message for entertainment and or educational purposes only. So let's get into it. Welcome to Intergalactic Crystal Ball. This is a special series that I do about public figures, and this series is one that I have felt like creating for a while, and just didn't really know how to do it. If I'm being honest, I was a little bit 131 on the timer. I was a little bit scared of doing it, but it's time now. Pluto is in Aquarius, and it's time now for me to go ahead and share these insights with all of you, because things that I've been picking up on are starting to come out as true. And in my Kanye West video, his mother spirit came to me. I am a psychic medium. I do have all of my clair senses activated, and I come from lineages of shamanism on both sides of my family. And yeah, I have been gifted my entire life. I've been studying esoterics, mysticism, and occultism since I was a child. And so that is how I know a lot of the stuff that I know in terms of divination and spirituality and, you know, mysticism and all of these great things that I'm going to bring into this reading. But as I was saying, this is my beauty body butter from my apothecary. It is charged with crystals and essential oils to be manifesting, to really help with manifestation and getting you into your feminine energy. But anyway, the point that I wanted to make is last night, I'm a dream walker, so last night, as I was sleeping, I was being communicated with in the ethers, and when I woke up, I was in a bit of reverie, and I saw, what came to mind was when Justin Bieber and Kanye were in the documentary Genius on Netflix. They're at his house, and Justin is sitting with him, and he's just on his phone. And if you go watch the Intergalactic Crystal Ball video that I made about Kanye, I wonder if I can zoom out. Yeah, I like that better. If you go watch the Intergalactic Crystal Ball video that I made about Kanye, I talk about this. This is so weird. Oh my god, I don't like this. Oh god, that was so weird. I did not like that. I talk about how he did have to do something strange for some change, and I think that he got to a point where he was just like, I just am gonna have to do this. Like, I've worked so hard, and if this is what I have to do, then this is what I'm gonna have to do, and I'm just not gonna tell anyone about it. And I think that him and Justin, coming from the same spiritual lineage as crystallines, because they are crystallines, they are Christ conscious beings. They come from, you know, the crystalline marine domain, and have lives and light workers who came from Mintaka through Venus to Earth, and at some point they had to go through the sun, is what I'm hearing. They had to go through the sun in order to get here, or they have to go to the sun in order to have their souls recycled, especially because of all of the trauma that they've experienced, is what I'm picking up. But essentially, they went through similar things, and I just think that both of them were deeply traumatized and like found solace in brotherhood with one another. I said this in that other reading. I do believe that Ye was the victim of CSA as a child, if not by one of his mother's boyfriends that he had to call uncle. Then it was by one of his mother's boyfriends that had to be called uncle, and his mom is here right now with me. Her spirit is here right now, and what I want to clarify is that for me, the person doesn't have to be unalive, because I am clairvoyant, I'm telepathic, I'm psychic. Like, I can communicate with them and their energies, like whether or not they're alive. Like some mediums, they have to be unalive or dead, but not alive. But like, I don't have that. So his spirit, not his ego, has been asking for help in the ethers. His spirit has been going through the ethers asking for help, kind of begging in a way. That's something that Kanye's spirit also does, and his spirit team has gone through the ethers as well to ask for help. And I really want to encourage, if you are a light worker or a starseed, if you do energy work, if you're an earth seed especially, I would really encourage you to send energetic healing to him, and his soul can either reject it or claim it, but it's really up to him. And I would just encourage people to do that, because he really needs it, and we need to help him move forward in his light, in his experience. So that's what I wanted to say. We get the 7 of Pentacles here at the bottom of the deck. I did some channeling and prayer before doing this reading. Before I do readings like this, I pray and I ask for permission, and I ask for the Holy Spirit and the Most High Divine Creator to guide me and to only communicate what needs to be communicated. And the spiritual warfare that is going on, if it's been affecting you as a person who is maybe not in the industry, imagine how it's affecting those of our soul family, 144 is what I'm picking up, who are in the industry, because they have really been born into and or initiated into the belly of the beast in a very strong, powerful way. And I am picking up, he is Canadian, and so I am picking up, the First Nations of Ontario, and I'm picking up their shamans, communicating that they're not going to let him fail in his mission. They're not going to let him fail in his mission, because he is integral in bringing down the demonic shadow empire, the world in reverse here. He's integral, and ever since he was a child, he has had these gifts that he knew he needed to share with the world. And look at this, underneath the world in reverse, the devil, and we get death, and 7 of Pentacles comes out again, but this time in the reverse. he is death for this beast system. He is one person who's bringing death to the beast system ever since he was a child. He was born to bring the living waters to this dehydrated, essentially, planet, collective, human heart. Okay. So some things that I picked up, because I looked at his natal chart and I looked at his progress chart, I looked at I did some numerology using his name, but the things that I want to point out before I even get into everything, I want to read my notes. When I was meditating, I heard the song Yummy. I saw a baby or toddler foot. It was the bottom of a foot, and specifically it was the right foot, which to me that's the right side is the masculine side, and it was about the masculine lineage. Especially with it being feet, to me it's talking about grounding in like the family tree. So what I picked up is that, you know, this is true for a lot of Christ conscious beings, apparently, because we develop we inherit the mitochondrial DNA from the mother's side. Excuse me, I need to put on a sweater. We inherit the mitochondrial DNA from the mother's side, and I am picking up that his mother is a Magdalene. She's of the Magdalene lineage. Sisterhood of the Rose is what I'm picking up, and so I do want to grab my Rose Oracle deck from Rebecca Campbell and just meditate with this, because I did feel like he needed help activating his heart chakra. It seemed like it was full of shadows from the abuse that he experienced as a child. Mothers, brothers of the rose, sacred masculine, honor, protection, support. So exactly, that is what he is. And I'm picking up also that his father has this Judas energy on him, betrayal, the sacred waters, exactly what I was saying, nourishment, replenishment, health, rest, self-care. So his heart has so much shadow, and we're being called to do shadow work on his heart chakra and help it integrate with his high heart chakra. That's green and pink. And we are being called to like pull the shadow out through the throat chakra, and I'm pulling out through the top of my energy axis. So like the base or the tip of his spine reaching into his brain, because he has experienced MKU programming, MMC, mind control operations, and he has experienced like kitten programming. Mother Rose, returning to each other, compassion, humanity, and he's helping with that. And release the petals. He is stuck. Transformation, death, and rebirth, shedding all change. The wild rose, do it your way, embrace your uniqueness, untamed and held. Sureness of the soul, unseen, help, support, community, and that's what we're being called to be. The mystic rose, compassion, devotion, humility, humanity, grace. That's what we're being called to do, to give that support and help to him so that he can do it his way, because right now he is still he's trying to, but it's really hard because the powers that he's engaging with are making it very difficult for him. And he has had to do certain things that he hasn't wanted to do because of contracts that he didn't sign the contracts. He was signed into them. I'm hearing by his father. He was put into these shit. Sorry. I really just hate this setup that I have, but it's all that I can do right now, so I'm just gonna work with what we have and be grateful for what we have. So his father sold him basically into this this form of slavery, because that's what a lot of these record deals and a lot of these, basically a lot of what is going on in the industry, specifically in the music industry, is slavery, because they are, it's just like so exploitative. If you look up like what these people who are signed to major record labels have to go through, Prince talked about this, Michael talked about this, Frank Ocean talked about this. This is exactly why Frank released his music the way that he did on Apple Music, in order to get free of his record contract and start his own label. A lot of stars have talked about, or celebrities, a lot of celebrities have talked about this. It's widely known that basically, and they are the ones who say this, you know, they are the ones who say this, but I also picked this up, is it's basically like slavery. And it's just so exploitative, and they just find all of these ways to trick you and get you stuck in debt. So it's definitely, the music industry is definitely a form of usury. This is something that I have been hearing for not months, but I want to say months, but it's like, it's something I've been hearing for a while in the ethers, is that it's a form of usury to keep people indebted, and this jubilation is going to liberate all of those people. Like, none of this is going to be able to stand any longer. And the people who have been doing this have been attaching themselves to, in spirit, they've been attaching themselves using occult ritual magics to powerful star seeds, and you know, let's just pull these down here for now, and we'll push them back up later. I wonder if this is as high as this can go. Oh my god, this is I did not realize that it could go higher. Thank goodness, because that was really low. So I'll just put this here. It's not gonna stay. Anyway, sorry folks. Really trying here, but whatever. So I'm just trying to organize this in a way that y'all can see it as much as possible. It's a form of usury, it's a form of exploitation, and they have been using people who are not in the industry, those of us who have star power and starlight, and they would not let us into the industry because they wanted to keep those people hidden, because they're being used in a different way. Like, they're being used as vehicles for destiny swapping, and they're being used as like a dumpster for karma. That's what they're trying to do. And they're trying to have those of us who are not like in the industry do the karmic work for and the karmic labor to liberate them without them ever having to do the work. So they would never have to engage with their karma, but that's not how it's going down. I'm being called to shuffle from my tarot deck look. As soon as I split the deck, we got this card out. Oh my goodness, these were stuck in here. So I do feel like this is kind of how he's feeling, like very much not harmonious, not victorious, because yeah, when he was coming up upon, Justin specifically, when he was coming up upon his Saturn return, he was, and I'm just gonna shuffle to integrate these, he was starting to have these revelations that he basically hit rock bottom. He hit a wall. He couldn't pretend anymore. He couldn't hide anymore, he couldn't lie anymore, and this is part of why he made the 𝗪𝗍 project. He's saying project. It's a project. It wasn't just like supposed to just be the song. And so with this music passing by just now, I do feel like there are distractions. There are a lot of distractions to cover up from what's been going on in the industry, and people may look at it as like, oh, it's a distraction. It's like, it's meant to be confusing, but it's meant to be confusing. It's meant to be like, oh, you know, this is just a distraction. This is just entertainment, but it's actually not. Sacred waters, nourishment, replenishment, health, rest, care. It's supposed to be, he released this song in a way to help with this Pluto moving into Aquarius, revelation of all of these abuses of power, because people don't understand that the same people who are in power in the media and entertainment industry are the same people who are in power working together with the people who are in positions of power politically. They are the same people who are in positions of power in big oil, big agriculture, you know, like JP Morgan, Charles Schwab, Ford, Rockefeller, all of these organizations, like all of BlackRock, all of these big power players, they're all working together. You know what I mean? And I'm saying this, yeah, basically I'm just gonna put it this way, like all of the power brokers are working together, and this is why it is a part of middle class and like bourgeoisie culture to be intellectual, quote unquote, but not actually a critical thinker. Because if you think about it, a lot of people who are quote unquote intellectuals, they just take everything that's told to them, but because they want to remain in the status quo, which is a big part of bourgeoisie identity and socialization, is to remain within the status quo, they're not going to really do or say anything that's actually controversial. They're not going to do or say anything that's actually like radical or rebellious, but they all want to be seen as progressive. So that's why they have to have like conservatives versus liberals in order to like give people the illusion of being progressive, when in actuality they're not at all. They're not at all. They are maintaining the status quo, which is destructive, which is harmful, which is exploitative, and it is built on exploitation of human bodies through labor, sexual exploitation, the enslavement of specifically AFAB people, assigned female at birth people, through cis heteropatriarchy, as well as the demonization and enslavement, imprisonment of the feminine, the sacred feminine. So all of this stuff is stuff that like is enforced actually by these intellectual bourgeoisie. And you hear this jalopy going by, like it's just breaking down, because this timeline is not going to be able to continue. This vehicle that we have been moving through, this paradigm, is not going to be allowed to continue any further. And so this was created as a form of like, this person, like you see he goes to church, like you see he's really like, though he's brainwashed and in multiple, like he's trying to get free of the cult, he is so stuck in that, because he's going to these cult churches in like Hillsong and the other one that I don't remember the name of, but he's going there because he wants help, because he is a crystalline. This is what people think of like Christianity as a spiritual institution is not. It is it is satanic, shaitanic, blood magic. Think about like all of the terrible things that happen in the Catholic Church. It is shaitanic. I grew up in the church, and I escaped with my life, but I have so much religious trauma, as most of us do, because it is an illusion. And I talked about this in a live that I did yesterday. about karmic, like, sabotage. These karmic friends don't want to see you thrive, or they want to see you stay poor or whatever. I explain how this works, and like my own experience being like in the church. Like, I was in it. I actually was doing, like, I was an active part of like the rituals that happened at church. But like I said, I've been studying occultism and magic and esoterics my whole life, and I began to realize, like, this is ritual magic, and the spirit here is really scary. And you know who usually realizes these things are the actual Christ conscious beings. The actual crystallines are the ones who usually realize these things and get kicked out, bullied, dominated, attacked, silenced. That we're usually the ones that happens to, and usually will be also like become like Christian witches, and yeah, other things, but you already know what I'm talking about. Just think about the fact that Yeshua was from an Essene bloodline. His parents were Essenes. Go look that up, Essene. Go look that up. The magician in reverse, yeah, they're not going to be able to continue doing these magics. But he told children, allegedly, I don't know because I wasn't paying attention to pop culture at this time when this song was released, but he's been coming up for me since February. So he told his fans to go listen to the song on repeat even when they're sleeping, and I believe that with the sacred waters, it's because he knows that there is liberation, abolishing power, spiritual liberation power in his voice. And by singing these songs, he is able to help people get free in their subconscious, and to be able to take the veil off of their eyes about the corruption that is going on in not just Hollyweird, but also, you know, in all of these bastions of power is what I'm hearing. And this has been going on for a long time. I'm seeing the word parties is standing out here, and also fortune telling is standing out here, daily readings. But because, I mean, just look with what started with Me Too back in like 2016, 2015, and it progressed with, in a way, 45 being elected is the best thing that could have happened, because it pulled the wool off of people's eyes and made people see America for what it truly is. And it really disabused a lot of people of the illusions that they were under, and it is what spurred forward this Me Too movement, and it really helped to radicalize a lot of people, so that when lockdown happened and the uprising happened, and when what's happening now happened, people were ready to stand and fight. Finally, after generations and decades of like just disempowering ourselves, people were finally ready to stand and fight. And that also happened with 44's election, 44/43. Well, I guess he was just like, yeah, the 44th president, but that also happened with him because like that was the start of revealing how racist people were, and then the next step was revealing how misogynistic and anti-poor, capitalistic people were, but a deeper level, a more nuanced level of racism that exists, and how people will be willing to sell out their other cultural identities in order to identify with wealth, because that's the true power, is what we're seeing. But it's complicated, and you really can't extract one from the other. They cannot be mutually exclusive. And that's why I call these different things, these different pillars, these different institutions, the pillars of the colony, or the demonic shadow empire, as I like to call it, because it's, they all work together in different ways to uphold the hierarchical system of exploitation, disenfranchisement, and oppression. And so, you know, after that happened, and the fascism that was sweeping across the world, then with the Me Too movement and people like Harvey Weinstein being unveiled, then we had, you know, the person with his island and his little friend, whose name starts with a G, J-E and G-M. They, like, he was arrested and she went to trial too, and literally people who were trying that case, the judge who was supposed to try that case, someone who was disguised as a DHL delivery person went to her house and shot up her house and, like, either maimed and or unalived her husband and her son. And people, this was on the news, but people don't even know about this, which is crazy to me, because it was literally on the, it was like a news article that I read, you know what I mean, on Apple News. And people don't know that things like this were going on, but something, and then I think that she may have stepped down, but that wasn't the only time that something like that happened during that case to the people who were trying and or prosecuting that case. And so, yeah, then the list was revealed and all of these people were implicated, and we started to see, like, a lot of people who were friends with this person, who were involved with these people, all these different industries and sectors that they were part of. And the thing is, people can be like, oh, well, that doesn't really mean anything. Yes, it does. I'm so sorry, but I'm not going to listen to the thoughts and ideas of people who don't actually have any proximity to power, because they don't know how people in power and powerful people think and act. So if you are somebody who's never even come close to a head of state or the heads of, like, multi-billion-dollar companies and things like this, or to people who actually have relationships with people who are actually celebrities or royalty, then you should maybe just be quiet and listen to the people who actually do, period. That all being said, we start to look at the people who were involved with these people, who had deep personal relationships with them, and we start to examine these relationships that they had. I know that people, like, I am not at all into that whole Q group. I never was. I never knew about it until in lockdown people started talking about it, and I wanted to stay very far away from it, because from what I could tell, they themselves were fascists. They were white nationalists from what I could tell, and they were super racist. And I felt like they were, you know, there is a sect of mysticism and occultism where people are Nazis. I believe, don't say neo-Nazi, because it's not something new. These people are fucking Nazis. Call them what they are. And having studied occultism since I was a kid, like, I know that a lot of people who are into occultism are Nazis, because the Nazi party was built on occultism, and Hitler himself was an occultist. And so, yeah, I saw that kind of, like, bigotry and hate in the spiritual community that was growing online, specifically on Twitter, as people were, like, waking up, and I was just like, I want nothing to do with this. The person that I consult when I would consult about these things was my dad. So when I would see these things, I wrote a whole essay about, like, how Trump is racist. He is not your fucking savior. And we have so many examples of how inhumane and abhorrent he is, and y'all are just saying, like, what did he actually ever do? He never actually did anything. And I told my dad about it, and my dad was just like, that's true, but you have to stop, because you could end up being unalived. My dad's father was unalived. Many of his brothers, cousins, uncles were unalived in a coup that happened in our country that was fomented by a triple letter agency here in the US. So I just want to go ahead and let folks know that, because some people don't think that things like that happen, and those kinds of people usually don't know anything about, one, history at all, but two, global history. They don't know anything about the history of colonization, and they don't know anything about what the West does to global southern countries in order to destabilize them and keep them under their thumb to control them. And this is exactly why I, as a Black African, first generation American, who grew up experiencing hardship, would never in a million years align myself with the people who are aligned with the Q group. And I also think that that was just a psyop to create delusion, confusion, spiritual psychosis, all kinds of stuff like that. Now, is that to say that everything that was that is believed by that group is untrue? No, absolutely not, because a lot of it is actually true, but then a lot of it is untrue, and those are the things that a lot of the most vile people latch onto so that they can perpetuate hate and foment violence. And then those people go around thinking that, oh, they're the saviors of humanity. No, you're not. You are monstrous. Take a real look at yourself. And these people are usually the ones who are like, oh, love and light, and don't even think about shadow, don't even think about negativity, only think about the happy things, and always think happy thoughts and mind over matter, because if you don't think about it, then it's not real. Those people were the same people who were saying that in Pakistan, when the floods were happening and the earthquakes were happening, that's not real. That's just a made up part of the media to upset us and make us have low vibrations. So I would never in my effing life align myself with such disgusting, delusional, insane people as that. And I say that all to say, those people were like, oh my God, he's our savior, da-da-da-da-da. The only thing that he really contributed that was positive to the progression of human consciousness and liberation efforts is that he revealed how bad things were. Which, with all the covert racism, all of the covert misogyny, and the fascism, he really helped his election and being in office really helped to reveal all of that so we could finally deal with that. And also he did reveal a lot of the corruption that was happening in politics, specifically when 𝗪𝗓𝗄 was running against him, and even before that, her running at all helped to reveal a lot of her own corruption and the corruption that was happening in the Democratic National Convention. And people want to just pretend like those things never happened, but they did. Anyway, when the island owner went down, it started having people look at the people who were involved with him, people like Naomi Campbell, and people were able to put together all of her controversies over the years and how people had already been saying for a really long time that she was participating in, I'm going to call the T word, stoplighting. She was participating in human stoplighting. She was particularly being a madam, stoplighting young girls who wanted to be models and or were models. And she actually was implicated with one of the past presidents who was pretty much a dictator of my country, who, I have family members and loved ones who were part of his cabinet, which is bad, and they were on the no-fly list when I was a child because they couldn't leave the country because they were involved with him. He is a bad person, and he deserves to be in jail because of what he did to my country. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about when I say proximity to power. If you don't actually have proximity to power, you don't have any right to say that what other people's lived experience who actually know these things, you don't have any right to say that that's not true, because some of us know for a fact that it is true. She was involved with him and the stoplighting of blood diamonds, and 𝗵𝗱𝗱𝗏 confirmed this. She had to go in front of an international court and tribunal on trial because of this involvement that she had. And there are a slew of other things and also allegations against her. Okay, so this is, she's just one of many that when we go back, having hardcore proof and evidence that she is involved with this person, these people, this crime syndicate, if you will, confirmation burp, solar plexus activation, these people, we see what a big, vast network it is. And also, go to Los Angeles, talk to people who are even just trying to be in the industry. Like, if you are a spiritual person and you go there, for me, the energy was unbearable to live there permanently because it was so dark and it was so dense. And like, yeah, you know when it's so hot that you see like wave lines because of the heat? That's how in my third eye the energy was, because it was so dense with blood magic. And you know, I'll stick with blood magic, but there was a lot of like death magic also, and death magic, and basically robbing of autonomy magic, especially 𝗪𝗍𝗍 bodily autonomy magics, and a lot of that with children as well. And spirits would come to me to tell me their stories, and this isn't just because of 𝗺𝗵𝗿, because 𝗺𝗵𝗿 was created, like literally they created it for studios. That's why there's Studio City. You know what I mean? Like the major cities in LA were built for the studios, the studio system. If you study the history of film, this is something that you will learn. And this is stuff that had been happening since like Manifest Destiny, which I created a photo zine called Manifest Destiny when I was living there. And this was created, you know, using the blood of the indigenous people, specifically the Chicana people and the I want to say Tejano. I'm so sorry. I'm like forgetting what the other tribe was. I'm gonna look it up. Oh, why did I look up Mexico? I meant California. Well, definitely the Ohlone. I don't remember, but yeah, a lot of these tribes, their ancestors would come to me, and I would just go on long walks around like my neighborhood, because I lived there for 6 months. I would go on long walks all around my neighborhood, essentially doing grid work and like healing and channeling. And I had so much like just crazy deja vu from when I was a child, and I would like yeah, I would just like, I think it's Tejano, the Tejano people, Tejano, and the Chicana. But anyway, yeah, like I would pick up their stories that would be revealed to me as I was walking, definitely in the sun, because I didn't go out after dark for the past like 4 years. And I was just integrating all of this information through as a crystal grid worker, and through my through my blood, through my bloodline. And yeah, it's like, it's been going on for a very, very long time. And that's the energy, that's the energetic structure, that 444 on my clock, and now 4444. Oh my God, I'm so sorry that like I keep doing that. I'm so sorry, because that's probably like really confusing. But anyway, that's like, that is the G side that like Hollyweird in and of itself, like Los Angeles and California, is built on. So, and then there's more and more that it's built upon. If you actually go there, you can experience that energy, and it's really sad because it's also some of the most sacred, beautiful energy I've ever experienced in my entire life, especially in Laguna Beach. Like, oh my God, there's definitely like a portal there, 100%. And the Mojave Desert is one of my favorite places in the world, like so nourishing and just transcendent, and the splendor of the sun, like the sun energy there is just it's just phenomenal, truly. If you ever get the chance to go to the Mojave Desert, that's where Joshua Tree is. It's just really incredible. I think also Palm Springs is there too. So 5 of Pentacles, but essentially, I'm seeing like the tables are going to be turned, you know, as they say, like the meek shall inherit the earth, the first shall be last, and the last shall be first. So the way that they have like spiritually bankrupted people, tortured people, like completely destroyed people's will to live, demoralized people, kept people in poverty, whether that was material or spiritual, that same thing is going to happen to them and their ancestry. I mean, yes, their ancestry, but also their descendants. Their family tree is about to be like wiped off the earth, is what I'm hearing. And all that's going to be left is their karma. But anyway, the point that I was making was the sacred waters, he's referring to it as a project confirmation. He's referring to it as a project. He really wants people to know this, because you're supposed to also, like, there are elements and aspects to it. This is what I do in my art making as well. Like, when you watch the video alongside with the song, you see things and you hear things and you can interpret it differently. So this intellectual culture that I was talking about, like intellectual elitism, it is a hindrance, because you're not encouraged to be a critical thinker. You're really just encouraged to parrot back this end of the status quo and like continue maintaining that. So yeah, it's actually like really counterproductive. But if you are a critical thinker, you can put 2 and 2 together. People may say, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist, but you know, if it's already proven to be true, it's not a theory anymore, it's just a conspiracy. And I need people to understand that. Y'all don't know the definitions of the words and the terms and phrases that y'all are using. And to me, I would be very embarrassed to be caught talking nonsense and proving myself to be real ignorant. Okay. He created this at the beginning of, like, as he was moving into his Saturn return, because his Saturn is in it's in Pisces. He is also he's a Pisces sun sign, and Venus is also in Pisces, which it is not in domicile, but it is exalted in the sign of Pisces. So he's a very attractive person, very attractive energy, magnetic energy, as I said, with this brothers of the rose, sacred masculine, honor, protection, support, divine masculine Christ, because of this, you know, Venus in Pisces energy. very much a holder of this divine feminine Christ crystalline consciousness, and exudes this energy that is so attractive and so healing. And a lot of people who have this template within them, I'm seeing 𝗵𝗻, like she's just coming up very clearly in my mind's eye. A lot of people who have this template within them, she has a very different feeling though. Maybe it's because she's a fire sign, sun sign, she's a Sagittarius like me, but she has a different, she's still a star seed for sure. And a lot of people who have this energy, they get them very young, and they sexually assault them, so they experience CSA at a very young age, and then they use them for, they basically stop like them for years in myriad different ways, but they're also like doing labor exploitation through their contracts. And it's creative exploitation too, because these people, they do have a lot of creative control, and they have to have creative control because it's their creativity that allows these people, to be attractive. It's their creative force, it's their life force, it's their chi, it's their prana that is attractive. So it's their creative mind and power and their ability to tap in to the universe and channel it through themselves. That is what is attractive. So they have a lot of creative agency and license, because that's what's going to bring in the money. So it is also like, it is a lot of, like I said, creative labor exploitation. And yeah, they basically turn them into concubines. Confirmation burp. I'm also picking up the K clan, as I guess I'm going to call them. These people, so you have different lineages, but most of these people, you're not going to get anybody who is like just a degular human. Those kinds of people, they might work in the industry, but they're not gonna be stars, quote unquote. You know what I mean? People who actually get very far, those are people who, like, they might be like the best boy or the grip. I studied filmmaking in university, so this is why I know this language, but like the best boy or the grip or whatever, like behind the scenes stuff, you know, craft services, maybe they're the people who like make things run, but they're not going to be, you know, really in front of the camera. Only people who have star power and have a supernatural quality about them are going to be in front of the camera. Yesterday I channeled something when I was doing the reading, and it was basically like the star card and the sun card have very different energies. The sun is, we don't think about the sun as a star, but it is. But it gives us life. And it is very special and sacred to us because it gives us life. But it is a star. But the star card has an otherworldly, like, not necessarily, the word that's coming up is unnatural, but supernatural quality to it, where it's more iconographic. Like, there's a distance. We can't reach that. But we can have a personal relationship with the sun. So that's the difference between, like, you know, people who become stars, because they have a star quality about them. They are special. They are usually supernatural beings, and people, because they are attractive more so. And so especially people who are crystallines will be used in this way. I'm also picking up Katy Perry, and she's also, all these people are victims of MKU and kitten programming, but you have, this was specifically created for these people. But then you have somebody like the K clan, and they are W's of Babylon, which is W's of Babylon, WOBs, S workers, of Babylon, and they are of lineages that have been holistically destructive and satanic, and yeah, they are dark priestesses, and I've been picking that up for years. And I think I 5454 on the timer, but yeah, so these people are honeypots, basically, and they will lure. I wanted to say that because I wanted to make a distinction. Not everybody who is in the industry is being victimized. Some of them want to do it. They are evil people. And what I picked up in another reading that I'm working on getting out to you all is that they are, some of them are of the like soul group of 𝗵 or 𝗵𝗱𝗲𝗵. That is their oversoul. I have not yet made content about oversouls, but I will at some point. But 𝗧𝗵𝗿𝗶 Academy has a great video about it that you can go look at. If I can remember to, I will try to link the 𝗧𝗵𝗿𝗶 Academy video. It's soul groups. So you have soul groups, and soul groups have oversouls, and oversouls, like, they're even like a part of a soul group, essentially. So it's basically like fractals, and these different family trees are descended from different spiritual lineages and bloodlines. And so there is a video that I will link also in the description box about the red dragon, and the people who are of the red dragon bloodline are descended from the red dragon bloodline, you know what I mean? And you can also be initiated into this, but like you will never have the same power as the people who were actually born into it. In my ancestral indigenous religion or spiritual practice, 𝗵, it's because every family has its own family god, and there are greater and lesser family gods, and the family god is the progenitor of the family lineage, and so the family god can be born on earth through the descendants. That's really important to understand. And these bloodlines are magical, supernatural in various different ways. And this is what I mean when I say, like, I come from on both sides shaman lineages. My grandmother was a 𝗪𝗻𝗎𝗄 priestess. My grandfather was initiated into the occult society of my tribe, of my people, and he was also a Freemason. He was yeah, I'm not going to get too deep into that, but he was one. And this is my grandfather on my dad's side. And you know, in my culture, if you're not, you can't be initiated into being a 𝗪𝗻𝗎𝗄. You're born a 𝗪𝗻𝗎𝗄. You can, you know, serve the 𝗪𝗻𝗎𝗄, but like if you're not, but it's better for you to just serve whatever spirit or whatever elementals are yours. It's better for you to just serve your family god. Why are you serving someone else's family god? Before you serve them, somebody else's family god, you need to serve your own family god. Because the way that my teacher Paulvin talks about it, you have to go ask. If you ask for help from somebody else's spirits and gods, like, that aren't your own, they're gonna have to ask for permission from your family god to help you anyway. So you may as well not. And I'll also break it down like this. You have Yahweh as the primary god of Abrahamic religion. And this is supposed to be like Abraham's descendants are, you know, the children of Yahweh, right? And that's why the lineage is important to understand. But then you have also angels, and angels have different rankings in angelology. You have seraphim, cherubim, ophanim. They have different rankings. So, and then if you want to get into it, really, if you are somebody who is of a Abrahamic religion, then there's also like the Nephilim, which were half human, half angel, essentially, or these angels are the deities of Abrahamic religion, specifically Christianity. And shaitan are the spirits that are quote unquote non-believers. That word is Arabic. It's also used in Hebrew. It is the adversary, and the shaitanic jinn are the quote unquote non-believers, and they are adversarial to the believers. So they're oppositional. And that is a very important part of what I'm talking about for y'all to understand. Because it is a war. And so I've talked about a spiritual war, but it's already been won. It's over. And I have so much more to get into specifically about him, but he actually, like, his spirit wants this stuff to be known. His spirit wants this stuff to be known because he's saying he's tired of hiding. He's tired of not being believed. He has support, but they're also indoctrinated, and some of them, they don't believe him because they're not initiated. And I think that there might be certain things that he's not allowed to say out loud, and he wants other people to say it for him. So I guess I'll go for a little bit longer on this one, and then I'll definitely have to make a part 2 because there's so much information that's coming down, and I just saw something like fall without like anything touching it, and I feel like that is like just spiritual confirmation. And I'm hearing the song Yummy again, so he's like, I am communicating this. I am communicating this. I want this to be known. Okay. We get the 10 of Cups in reverse. So what I'm picking up is this Smith Rider-Waite deck that I'm using. This is what's happening to the opposition, the controllers, the abusers. And yeah, he just couldn't take it anymore. And he's like, people need to know what happened to me so that people can know what's happening in the industry. And it actually affects everybody because, like I said earlier, these people are involved. This is just one industry that is part of a greater machine. These people are all involved with one another. They're all working together. You know what I mean? And we know this to be true. Follow the money. They're like, follow the money. And the thing is, I personally feel like it would be better to stop trying to gaslight people who have proof and evidence. And for me, lived experience. Stop trying to gaslight people because it's not going to work. And just say, okay, even if that's true, I don't care. I'm happy and I'm complacent and I'm going to be complicit. So whatever. Say that. Because at least I could have some semblance of respect for you. But for the most part, I can't respect y'all. I cannot respect y'all. 3 of Swords in the reverse position. And the 10 of Pentacles in the reverse position. Judgment in the reverse. 9 of Pentacles in the reverse. 8 of Cups. And we get the 7 of Wands at the bottom of the deck. In the reverse position. I'm going to cover her up because it's a little spicy, the imagery. it was an unfair trade. Like, I know that they said that allegedly Sean Combs offered him, like, oh, when you get to the age of 18, I'll give you a white Lamborghini. And then he turned 18 and he was seen driving around in a white Lamborghini, and people assumed that he was given that Lamborghini. 10 of Pentacles in reverse, 3 of Swords in reverse. It was not a fair trade for what happened to him and what he ended up experiencing. That time that he spent with him for that weekend, like, oh, I'm the guardian of him for this amount of time. They're saying that, like, it's like, oh, why would Sean Combs, like, post these things? Like, why would he record these and put these out into the world? And it's like, because there's a level of, like, having to be open about what's going on, is what they're saying. This is reading to me as, this specifically is reading to me as emasculation and grooming. Emasculation and grooming. And what I was saying before is his dad thought, what I got in my notes when I was doing the channeling and looking at the charts and meditation, is that his dad, and I'll say this again, educational purposes, this is all alleged, what I downloaded is allegedly his father sold him without his mother's consent, and he had a clear idea of what was going on and allowed it to happen. He sold him and helped, and allegedly helped Scooter Braun allegedly groom him, because he was given legal custody of guardianship over this young man when he was a boy. His father knew what was going on. His mother did not. And I think that I saw something before saying that, like, when he was getting into trouble and stuff like that, she was talking about how she, like, was trying to, like, help him, but she couldn't get a hold of him. She couldn't get in contact with him because he was being, like, basically what I'm hearing is controlled by the management. Like, they were not allowing him to connect with her. And this is an abuse tactic whereby the abuser will isolate you and control you and create a world around you so that, like, you're in a false matrix, essentially. Like, everything seems like it's this world when in reality that's not true. That's what cults do. Occultism. Culture. That's what cults do. And I am the survivor of what was essentially a cult. And I identify it as that, and I'm gonna identify it as that. Because the way that I grew up fits the bill of a cult, like a literal cult. And this is what they do in cults. They make you think that what is going on is normal, and everyone's doing it. Like, don't be scared, don't be shy. Like, if you're like feeling like it's not good, like it's fine, it's normal. That's just like your programming telling you that it's not good. And this is why he has stuck so close to these churches. But the problem is, these churches are cults, and they are part of all of this. When I started getting these messages, when I started being presented by Spirit this information and being led down this rabbit hole in February, it was around the Super Bowl, of course. I didn't know anything about, like, this Hillsong church and their scandals, and, like, it's just disgusting. But it's typical cult stuff. It's typical cult stuff. You know what I mean? And yeah, like, apparently he was getting help by, like, going there and donating a lot of money and stuff like this. And it's like, yeah, but those people are programmers, and I'm seeing like snake eyes. I'm seeing, like, just very like snake people. You know what I mean? People who are reptiles, is what I'm seeing in my mind's eye. And this makes sense because like this, and I wrote down draconic lineage is what I wrote down. Specifically about his wife. We'll get into that later, but the people who are the architects and the programmers and the controllers of the false matrix system, the demonic shadow empire, which is buoyed up. It is literally an ideological system that we were traumatized into adopting and operating through. That's what indoctrination into the colony is. It's a form, it's basically like being jumped into a gang against your will. They know how the human brain and human body operate. And they know that as like Homo sapiens, as primates, are social animals. And that this need for acceptance can be exploited. And they know what it does to a person to experience. They know how to manipulate the human mind and body for their purposes. Like I've said before, marketing, psychology, marketing is $1 billion industry, probably trillions actually. But companies spend billions of dollars on marketing. And marketing is not much more than psychology and creativity coming together to manipulate people on a mass scale. Okay, so basically with people who are very charismatic, like these people who start cults, they know how to manipulate people. They're very intuitive people. Intuitive, incisive, and I would even say, even if they're not empathic, they are very tuned in to what's going on with a person. In a sense, hypervigilant in their obsession for controlling others. Because these people are parasites. They're vampiric people. That's what narcissism is. Energy vampires. That's what they are. But also, like, literally, if you've never experienced someone sucking your energy out of you, I have. And yeah, I'll just go ahead and, like, double down on, like, 111 on the timer. I am not interested in any capacity in hearing any colonizer BS on here, because, you know, these are, like, my beliefs are formed by my ancestral indigenous religion. So don't be anti-indigenous and don't be racist. You can disagree, you can take it or leave it, believe what you want to believe, but you don't have to insult people's indigenous spirituality and beliefs. That all being said, yeah, it's like this energy of like, draconic, being made to believe that this all was normal, but in his body, in his spirit, he knew that it wasn't. And so like, oh, he's trying to go to a church. Oh my gosh, I know a person who literally is a survivor of a family. Their family was and I'm not gonna say shaitanic, because I'm not talking about shaitan. This is the verbiage that they used. Satanic ritual abuse. In New York City, they grew up in this family where they experienced all kinds of abuse, and they were able to escape from the family and from the cult. But what happened to them essentially was like, nowhere that they went was safe, because the doctor that they went to was part of this cult. Like, I guess even like the accountant, like it was a network of people. Even like, they even had people in law enforcement who were part of this cult. I know this person personally, and they were able to escape the cult. And they were adopted by someone else when they escaped, and they've had a lot of like work that they had to do. But this happened in New York City. And this is why I say, like, dude, when I moved to New York City, I didn't realize how many people, prior to that, I didn't realize how many people do magic. And I'm not just talking about like our ancestral indigenous practices, Santeria, Afa, Lukumi, Brujeria, but also people who do like, I mean, I guess that is their ancestral, it's not their indigenous magics, but it is their ancestral magics, people who do occult ritual magics. Like, I've met them in person and they're out there. But this happened to this person. He grew up in New York City. So it's not just happening in far off random places. Like, people can be experiencing this kind of stuff and also stoplighting right in front of you. Do not sleep on this stuff, because this is really happening to people. But yeah, it's like he goes to this church and they are not actually helping him because they are part of the cult, you know? And they know who to like lie to and manipulate. The K family goes there. Lana Del Rey goes there. They know who to put on a front with and who to keep it real with. Okay. And so, yeah, like, he did not have discernment because he was a child. And now that he has discernment, he can realize, like, because your body and your subconscious, they know, even though your consciousness might, like, you might have a sense that you're being lied to and manipulated, but you might consciously ignore it for any kind of reason. But like, your subconscious will tell you the truth. Your subconscious is not gonna like, your subconscious is not gonna be with the shits, as they say. You know what I mean? So he started to have visions, is what I'm hearing. He could have been activated to his gifts, like in a psychic capacity, and started to have visions. What I'm picking up on is like, okay, his subconscious was projecting visions to him, but what I'm really picking up on is that it was like when your memories of trauma start resurfacing and coming back. And he had to transmute it somehow. The veils lifted and he started to realize and remember what he had gone through and what had happened to him, and he started to realize the gravity of it and depths of it in a new way. Parts of his consciousness that had been asleep started coming back online, is what I'm picking up on. And he started to realize, like, I would have rather stay normal. I would have rather just like been a regular guy who went to a regular high school and played hockey than have to have experienced all of this stuff. And the thing is, these people do this stuff like out in the open. But so this is why he was abusing substances. Oh, y'all can't really see that, so let me move these cards down a little bit so y'all can see this better. This is why he was abusing substances. I can tell y'all, like, this is my story in a lot of ways as well. This is so similar to my story, and it's so similar to a lot of our stories. Those of us who are survivors of SA, and especially CSA, and like cults and like ritual abuse and stuff like this. All these kinds of things, like those of us who are survivors of all this kind of stuff, like, you may not even know, like, because members of the cult might be doing stuff to you in another part of the world. You know what I mean? I'm saying Like, some of these brotherhoods they're worldwide. I'm telling you the kind of lineage I came from. My grandfather was the head Freemason of my country. It doesn't have to be someone I know in person doing spiritual warfare to me. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be. So he was doing everything he could to not face this truth, to not engage with this truth, because obviously it's very painful, it's very scary, and who wants to? But eventually he couldn't fight it anymore with this devil card here, and he had to because of his Saturn return. 9 of Pentacles in the reverse position. Yeah. It was like he was really putting off this expansion, but I do think that potentially with getting married, that it's not getting married, it's like something to do the Lyme disease. I channeled this a while ago too, something to do with the Lyme disease, because going through physical ailments can catalyze a spiritual awakening. Something to do with the Lyme disease really made him start seeing things more clearly and go through a Kundalini awakening. And because of the planet was operating at a higher vibration, he was able to break past the programming. But it's really hard for people who have been victimized in that way, because so people talk about blonde hair, and I just want to say, like, blonde hair is a symbol of like your crown chakra being open and activated. That's symbolically what it means, and that's what it's used for. It's also used for like purity, and it's also used for like temptation in a way. It represents Venus. If you look in Western art history, they never present the Virgin Mary with blonde hair. She's always presented with brown hair, but Venus and Eve are always presented with blonde hair. And this is an idea of like temptation, seduction, because of magnetism. And it is a sign that you are open and like virginal in a way, like the slate has been wiped clean and you are ready to be seeded. Fecundity is what I'm picking up on, the word fecundity. But Mary has brown hair in Western art historical, in the Western art historical lineage. And that's because she's not open, she's not available, she is covered, and she usually is also seen wearing a veil. And she's the representation of the mother, whereas Eve and Venus, I guess, are the representation of the maiden. We have maiden, mother, crone. And yeah, I mean, as far as the crone is represented in Western art history, I don't really know. I don't really remember that. But I would say that they're not really represented, and if they are, it's like usually like a family portrait or something, or they might be a nurse or a caregiver or a caretaker. But in Western art history, they don't really present elder women. But if they did, you would definitely, there's no I mean, they're probably going to be physically covered all the way, like a nun, essentially. So blonde represents your crown chakra being open, and it can be like either you're naturally going through a crown chakra activation, which happens as a part of Kundalini awakening 1, 2, 3, 4 on the timer, or you're going through a crown chakra activation. You're open, You know, you are ready to be mounted is really what it's saying. And I think you can pick up on the undertones of what I'm saying as well. But in my culture, in 𝗪, when you have to enthrone your sovereign self. You have to enthrone your God essentially on yourself, and that is when you are initiated into the faith, into the practice. In my country, it's the Pro Society and the Sunday Society. When you get initiated, and then you would be initiated into, if you were a 𝗪𝗹𝗱𝗃, you'd be initiated into 𝗪𝗹𝗱𝗃. If there's another school of, or essentially what would be a cult, but they are secret societies in and of themselves, secret bush societies within the Pro or the Sunday, you get initiated into that as well. And that's part of that initiation into 𝗪, if we're talking about 𝗪 in general, is to enthrone your sovereign self, your higher self. And so once they're enthroned, nobody can sit upon you, nobody can mount you. But if you are victimized by MKU, they can also crack you open and wipe your slate clean, is what I'm picking up on. They can wipe your slate clean once again, and yeah, you'll just have an empty crown chakra. And this is obviously going to disconnect you from the higher realms. This is obviously going to disconnect you from the light realms. This is obviously going to cause spiritual trauma that probably will result in you not having a very healthy relationship with divinity and spirituality. And I guess if you're really desperate, when people are really desperate, that's a lot of the time when people will turn to the church, is when they're super desperate. And I've seen, in my culture, I've seen people who identified as Christians, when they're really desperate, is when the whole time they'll always be witchcraft is bad. You can't do that African stuff, because they're colonized minds, even though they themselves are African. And then when things get really serious, that's when they want to turn to our ancestral indigenous faith and religion. And for me, that kind of was the case too. But 𝗪 is actually it is the universal practice. It is the universal indigenous practice. It's when I look at indigenous practices across the world and their belief systems, their cosmology, it's the same, which makes sense because we're all human. And the universe is the universe. But I digress. People will, when they're desperate, they'll run to spirituality, and I do get the sense that he was very, very desperate. Very, very desperate. 8 of Cups. Yeah, so this spiritual awakening that he was going through caused a lot of emotional torment, and it was very uproarious for him. It really broke his heart and caused this spiritual shift, because the journey of the shaman is marked by trauma. It's usually activated by trauma. Trauma is often an initiator of shamanism. You get initiated to higher realms within shamanism, and if you've gone through enough activations, some people call it ascensions, I'm going to call it an activation. When you've gone through enough activations, you realize, okay, I'm at fucking rock bottom. I'm down bad. Shit is messed up. I'm about to glow up harder than y'all ever seen before, because that's how we know that's how it works. And for him, it was just he had a backlog of stuff that he needed to deal with, because he had so much stuff that had been being thrown at him energetically. Yeah, people really don't believe that people do occult magics and this kind of stuff. And it's bro, you wouldn't believe the stories that I have to tell. Some of them, I'm waiting for spirit to reveal to me when the right time is to tell it. Some of these things, but people who know me, have heard me tell some of these stories. But yeah, like some of this stuff, it's just crazy, you know what I mean? And honestly, like I'm so grateful that I didn't get as far in the industry as I wanted to when I was young. And a lot of that was because even from the proximity, even as far as I got into it, horrible things happened to me. Like these things that I'm talking about with these people, those kinds of things were happening to me as well. Like, trigger warning, but I mean everything I say comes with a trigger warning. Sexual assault, multiple times, sometimes multiple people, you know, honeypots, triple letter honeypots. You know, one of my biggest fears in life, and it is a completely rational fear for someone from my lineage and my family background to fear, is being kidnapped and unalived. Especially by the authorities, because that is what happened to a lot of my dad's family, specifically his father. So that's like, and also like even just a few years ago, my uncle was unalived back home brutally, and you know, it seemed like it was ritual magic, and they just refused to effectively look into it. And it was very suspicious because it was in line with a bunch of other people of a similar background and social status, very specific identities being unalived or just dying suddenly. 3 happened, and I have proximity to all 3, obviously because of my family. And so yeah, people think that this kind of stuff doesn't happen in real life, and it's like, yeah, I bet you would think that that doesn't happen in real life. But it actually does. These things that I talk about, they're not theories. I actually have lived and experienced to them. And, you know, my sister was engaged to a very, very powerful billionaire. And I'm not going to get too deep into the things that happened between them because Spirit hasn't, like, told me to talk it. Spirit's like, talk your shit. In my culture, there's a phrase basically that's like, I will talk it, which is a colloquia for I will talk it, I'll speak on it, I'm gonna speak on it. It actually became a really big phrase that they used on like billboards and stuff to encourage people to talk about, like, to come out and like report if they were sexually assaulted. But yeah, like, I will eventually speak on all of these things, and my personal experiences and experiences that happened to like friends of mine. But what I can honestly say, especially at this point in my life, is like, looking back on everything, I'm so grateful that my ancestors protected me from getting what I wanted and from doing the things that I wanted to do, because I was trying to operate from self-will, because I 100% would be dead. I would be dead. No, like, absolutely no doubt about it. Or I would be like being stoplighted and like basically like being used as a concubine, as somebody's like slave or something like that. So I'm just really grateful that like I was able to avoid being caught up in that beyond the degree that I already was caught up in it. And yeah, we're at pretty long in this channeling, so I'm gonna go ahead and end this one. I will definitely be uploading a part 2, so keep a weather eye out for that. And yeah, if you got this far, thanks for rocking with me. I love you all truly and deeply. I really do. I appreciate you all so much. Honestly, like, I just have to say, every time I see a picture of this person, I genuinely want to cry, because I just know what it's like to experience this kind of like exploitation, not to the same degree that he has, but to have your childhood robbed of you. by specifically sexual violence and exploitation, and abuse, and live in a culture of abuse, and like have everybody normalizing that around you, and just like not knowing who you can trust, not really being able to trust anybody, and having to go through the work of like realizing this is so painful and terrifying and heartbreaking, to have your memories come back and to realize the gravity of what happened to you, and then like to have to heal beyond it. You can't do that alone. And so I just, every time since I found out this stuff about him, since this stuff has been being like brought to me in spirit and by spirit, I don't go looking for this stuff at all. I get led down these rabbit holes, and I just do what spirit tells me to do. That's my job as an oracle. But it breaks my heart, and I like literally like start tearing up whenever I see pictures of him, to the point where like I now try not to see any pictures or any content about him, because like it's just so disgusting what people will do to children, and just what people do to each other when they're so sick and hungry for power. And this abuse of sexual abuse of children, and stoplighting of children, and AFABs, and people in general, like it has to stop. It just has to stop. And you know, I truly believe that one day it will. But that's where I'm gonna leave it. If you want to book an oracle healing session with me, we do divination and we do energy work. You can do that. If you want to purchase a reading, astrological reading, tarot reading, Akashic records, past life regression, excuse me, confirmation burp, but you can do that on my website, Self-Sovereignty Coaching. I prefer to use the term guidance because I guide you through it. I don't like the idea of coaching. That just seems so colonial. And also it seems like an unfair power dynamic. All I can do is guide you to the information. It's up to you whether or not you take it, the opportunities given, and all I can do is support you, offer you as much support as possible. But yeah, that's when we build out a cosmic wellness practice, and I help walk you through shadow work to help you become the most powerful self-sovereign version of yourself, which ultimately does help with manifestation, and activate your innate natural God-given power. You can book packages through my website, and yeah, you can now book and pay with Klarna, so you can pay in 4 parts to make it more accessible. But I also do offer discounts for Black and Indigenous people, people of color, and people of other marginalized identities. So reach out to me if you need help. I also offer sliding scale. So if you need help accessing, I'm always willing to work with you. Email me or DM me, but yeah, you can also pay in 4 if paying outright is not something that's accessible to you. I love you all truly and deeply. I hope that this was helpful in any capacity. I think that it's been on my heart to do this for the past few days, and I kind of was just like avoiding it, but I think it will be helpful for whatever it's meant to accomplish. So yeah, peace and happy hunting.